The last time I visited my grandparents' house, this happened. Do you know what's the worst part about spending the holidays in my grandparents' house? The bathroom, because it was situated outside the house. First of all, I'm a lazy guy, so going outside whenever I needed to pee was too much for me. Anyway, the last time when I went there, my grandpa warned me about going to the bathroom after dark. He told me to be careful because they spotted wild boars in the night. Since the forest wasn't very far away from the backyard, it was kinda scary. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. My stomach wasn't feeling well because the dinner earlier that night was awful. It was almost 2:30 in the morning and I needed to go to the bathroom. It was dark outside, so I took a flashlight with me. Even though walking toward the toilet has always been hard for me, I wasn't thinking about anything else at that moment. And it was all fine until 2:40 in the morning. I finished my business, and when I was about to open the door, I heard a scratching noise coming from the outside, and it was very close. And that's when I remembered about Grandpa's warning. I mean, if it's a wild boar, then it's dangerous to go outside right now. I've heard that wild boars are very aggressive and dangerous. If they feel threatened, they will attack you. That scratching sound was making me nervous, and I didn't take my phone with me, which was a big mistake. Anyway, I decided to wait until the boar goes away. And after 15 minutes, which felt like forever, the scratching stopped, and I thought that it went away. I felt relieved. I waited a few more minutes just to be safe. I opened the door, and the boar was gone. While I was walking toward the house, I was cursing whoever built the bathroom outside because I've never been so scared in my life. And then, I heard a sound coming from behind. I turned around and what I saw made my jaw drop. First I thought it was a boar, but then I saw the rest of its body, and it wasn't like a normal animal. It was different. It almost looked like a human. I screamed and ran, but before I know it, it hit me in the hips. I fell. The pain was unbearable, and when I tried to get up, that thing came back. I could barely see anything, but it hit me in the head 2 or 3 times until I passed out. The pain was the last thing I remember. Then, I woke up in a hospital after a few days. The doctor said that he has never seen anything like this before. He even doubted that it was done by a wild boar itself, or whether there was another animal. Anyway, I was surprised that I survived with only a mild fracture in the skull. But then I realized that I lost one of my palms and foot. I'm still afraid to think about what it was doing to me when I was passed out. My family was terrified of this incident, and after that, my grandparents moved into the city. Even to this day, I still don't know what that thing was and why it didn't kill me. This happened to me when I was 8 years old, and it still haunts me to this day. I remember waking up one night to the sound of my little brothers running into my room, screaming about seeing a man outside their window. Their names were Jake and Matthew, and they were a year younger than me. Our parents were on a weekend business trip at the time, so it was just us in the house, meaning I had to be the man of the house and investigate. I grumbled as I got out of bed, only to fall right back into it. I was just too tired to bother with the overactive imaginations of 2 7-year-olds. This wasn't the first time they'd seen things outside their window which turned out to be nothing. But my brothers were very persistent this time. They grabbed me by the hand and pulled me out of bed, then led me back to their bedroom. Our bare feet creaked loudly along the floorboards with every step we took as I yawned, trying to keep my eyes open. Once we made it to their room, I looked around. They only had one window which faced the wooded area surrounding our house. I looked out the window, but saw no one. "There's nobody there now, so just go back to sleep," I said, determined to get back in bed. My little brothers did as they were told, though it was obvious they were still a bit scared, and I went back to my room. A few minutes later, the boys came running back, screaming that the man had returned. Once more, I got out of bed and went back to the window. I was starting to get ticked off at this point. I wasn't mad at my brothers for being scared, but I was mad at this imaginary intruder for scaring my brothers and keeping me awake. I know I should have taken the situation more seriously, but being the dumb kid I was, I decided to do something a little more reckless. I then sat down in front of the open window and motioned for my brothers to sit beside me. Whoever this guy is, he picked the wrong house to rob. The next time he shows his face, we're gonna kick him as hard as we can. That'll teach him not to mess with us. Dead as I lay down flat on my back and raised both of my feet off the floor, then placed them on the windowsill. My brothers did the same, and all three of us stayed in that position, waiting silently for the man to return. I didn't think the man was real, of course. I just wanted to prove to my brothers that there was nothing to be afraid of. A few seconds later, my heart sank when I heard leaves crunching outside as someone was approaching. No way, I thought, trying to rationalize that what I was hearing was just a wild animal or something. But sure enough, a grown man appeared in front of the open window, giving us all a good look at his face. In the end, neither of us kicked. We were all frozen with fear at the sight which greeted us. The man had pale skin, long dark hair, and piercing bloodshot eyes. He was dressed all in black, and his face was covered in scars, making him look like a deranged serial killer. We all trembled on the floor, too scared to move or look away. The man himself was also surprised when our eyes met for the first time. He glanced between the three of us, completely speechless. And who could blame him? He wasn't expecting three little boys to be waiting for him on the other side of the window, lying flat on their backs with their bare feet raised in the air, ready to kick. The whole situation was just really bizarre, and after a few seconds of eerie silence, the man finally smiled, revealing a pair of sharp, pointy teeth. We gasped in fear, wondering if this guy was even human. Then, without warning, he lunged his head forward with his mouth wide open, like he was going to bite us. We all screamed at the top of our lungs and yanked our feet away just as his teeth snapped shut. He missed us by a split second, and we weren't about to let him try again. Me and Matthew scrambled to our feet and bolted out the room. Jake, however, took a little longer to get up, and the man was able to grab his ankles. Looking over my shoulder, I could see Jake screaming as he was being lifted in the air by his ankles, dangling upside down as the man opened his mouth again, ready to take a bite. I rushed back and punched the man right in the jaw, making him let go of my brother, then slammed the window shut and locked it. The man grumbled in annoyance, but ran off into the woods. We never saw him again after that, and we never told our parents what happened. Not like they'd believe us anyway. I don't know if that guy was ever caught, but from that point on, I always made sure to check on my brothers whenever they say they heard something outside. This happened when I was a kid. There was a big river not so far from my village. My friends and I used to go there, swimming on Sundays. We used to compete, challenge, swim together. Those were one of the best childhood memories I have. Except for that day. I remember there was a little bit of rain spraying on us, and the flow of water was pretty faster than usual. Most of the time, we swim in the middle section of the river, or very close to the shore. We never go to the other side because during the old times, before our village had any proper medical care, people used to think of diseases as God's anger towards them. If someone was sick and if they couldn't treat that person, they used to bury that person alive as a precaution. The forest on the other side of the river was a burial ground in the old times, and it is said that nowadays people had seen things there at night, so we were pretty scared to go there. But on that day, one of my friends challenged me to cross the river to prove my bravery, and I was pretty stupid to take that bait. I started as brave, but when I got closer to the other side, I was getting a little bit scared. The air was getting a lot cooler now because of the rain, and finally, I reached the other side. But when I got there, I don't know how, but my fear was gone. I climbed onto the shore. It was like I could do anything. So, I started showing off in front of my friends. They were all pretty amazed. I felt proud. Then, I started mocking and challenging the friend that asked me to do this. It felt pretty good. But all of a sudden, everyone's face changed. They were scared and started screaming for me to jump. Now I was getting scared again. Are they trying to scare me? I thought. But then, my stomach dropped when I felt a cold breath on my neck. A chill passed through my spine. I didn't look back or waste another second. I jumped into the river and started swimming like crazy. But then, I heard another big splash, which means whoever it was standing behind me also jumped in the water with me. The flow of the water made it harder for me to swim, but since I was scared shitless, I gave it all my strength, and finally made it back where my friends gave me a hand, and we all ran to our homes, screaming. Fortunately, whatever it was in the water, it didn't follow us into the land. I still didn't understand what it was, but my friends told me everything when we reached home. They saw a tall, dark figure with long hands. It was just behind me, and I barely escaped from its grasp. It still gives me chills thinking about it. We never went to that river again. Look at this house. So beautiful. It's probably 100 years old, and all such houses will have a story to tell. You know, they say that if you need your house to stay strong even after generations, you'll need to sacrifice something for the house. Something valuable. It may sound superstitious, but some people do believe in it. I remember the time when it was getting built. My house was nearby. You see, ever since my mom died, I was raised by my drunk-ass father. So, I was not the nicest kid around. I didn't have that many friends. All I had was Max and Chip. We used to play at this place. It was an abandoned land back then. One day, a man came to us and said, "If I find you two here again, I'll pluck your eyes out and feed them to my dogs." We were terrified. Since then, we never went there. Months passed and the construction started. I used to watch it from a distance. One day, Max told me that there was something unusual going on in that place during the night. Needless to say that we wanted to check it out. So that night, we sneaked out. Max said that it was some kind of ritual for the house. I didn't believe it until I saw it with my own eyes. There were a few people gathered there, wearing unusual clothes. A small glowing fire at the center of it. even though I couldn't see that much. I recognized one of these men. It was the guy who told us to never go there again. Later, we found out that he was the owner of the land, a very rich man. I didn't know what he was doing there at night. They were saying some kind of chant. It was unclear, but very creepy. That's when I saw that there were 2 dogs with him. And then Max said that we should go back. I said okay, because every second we were standing there made it that much creepier. On our way back, Max told me that he read about this ritual somewhere. Some people used to bury animals alive under the foundation of their house. They believed that if they did this, their house will stay strong for a long time and it won't be affected by disasters or anything. That was a crazy night. Since then, I used to have nightmares about it, and I even stopped letting Chip go outside for a while. One day, I was genuinely scared when I saw that man talking with my father. I mean, why would a man that rich would even come near someone like my father? Something was wrong. But I was too afraid to ask my father about it, so I let it go. That night, it happened. I was in my sleep. Then, I felt like I was floating in the air, like someone was taking me away in a dream. I was half awake, but before I realized that it was not a dream, something hit my head. It was so painful that I couldn't even open my eyes. It was all a blur. I felt like I was in a pit. They were throwing dirt and stones at me. Every inch of my body was in pain. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. I cried and cried until my mouth stopped moving. It feels like yesterday, how my flesh, bones, and even my hair became a part of this building. Now, I can say that the house is me, but how? I don't know the answer. All I know is, decades after they did this so-called ritual, I woke up. It felt like a long dream. My head hurt like hell. That's the problem. Our bodies may decay, but the pain is still there. It won't go away. It never goes away. And yet, people say that I'm evil for doing what I did. I disagree with them. I mean, my father died in his 60s, and the superstitious rich man died in his 50s. They both at least got to live their childhood and youth, unlike me. But I'm not perfect. I told you that already. Maybe this is wrong, taking the youngest son of this family. But I'm not gonna hurt him though. It's just that I want my childhood back.